everything. All right. Looks like we should be live here with the Wehrmacht faction 5 minutes or slightly more overview. Overwhelm your opponents with your strength and powerful infantry, able to lock down the map early. Use your mobile light vehicles to adjust your opponent and bring support to where you need it. Your elite core tanks, along with your Commander Collins, can destroy any pesky problems you run into. Take it away, Taylor.
Wehrmacht is a faction about quality but expensive units. Fully upgraded, their units will outdamage the opponent's faction, but they suffer the most when losing a unit and heavily rely on their vehicles for map presence. The faction has the fastest light vehicles and the only non-Tier 1 infantry unit to have a wrench icon. It is suggested that for every MG unit they start with, to build at least that many Kübelwagons throughout the game. Kübelwagons are integral to the faction for capturing points, taxing infantry, and reinforcing infantry to keep them in the game. Every tier unit can lead to a viable build path, but which one and when is tricky. A common mistake for Wehrmacht players is getting countered in the supply phase. Wehrmacht units can't respond on the fly like other factions. They can't pivot their damage type like US, build in placements like British, forward spawn like OKW, nor pressure your opponent on every point like Soviets. What they invest in is what they are stuck with and can be very transparent to the opponent. Surprising an opponent with a Kübelwagen plus speed die plus infantry to reach the center of the map in one turn from spawn is expensive. To play Wehrmacht or play against them well, players need to know how to play the supply phase and try to bait out an opponent's unit purchases so that they do not get countered. Okay, so you can get camouflage when grenadiers are low on health, panzer grenadiers to take highly fortified capture points, and mortar/light vehicles for some command point efficiency. While Wehrmacht Tier 3 is when these specialized vehicles built to hard counter whatever your opponent has been doing trying to counter you, with the Flak Panzer getting strong and anti-infantry, the Panzer with the range and the anti-tank, or the Storm Panzer with the 6 health and the versatile HE upgrades, which will be good against everything and very hard to remove. So for openers, there's a lot of different ones. If you go with 3 Grenadier opener, there's a good opening of going into 2 mortars followed up by light vehicles. If you're going 1 Grenadier, 2 MGs, you're probably going to want to start with a Kübelwagen and a Panzer Grenadier, or maybe some multiple Kübelwagons. If you're going triple MGs, I'd say go 2 to 3 Kübelwagons and then 2-2-2 and go heavy into the light vehicles and use your MG teams to hold down the opponent while your light vehicles go around and capture and threaten your opponent back. A 2 Grenadier 1 MG opening is probably the most standard and safest. If you go 2 Grenadier 1 MG, you can kind of branch out into any direction, mortar teams, 2-2-2s, Kübel, Panzer Grenadier, and you're not really going to have a bad game. But there's plenty of options, plenty of ways to play them. They're very versatile with what you can do. Panzer Grenadiers are probably the most powerful unit in the game. They cost 5 manpower, but they have 3 range, 5 health. They can get up to 3 AP or anti-tank damage, which is very powerful. They can capture, they can build sandbags while capturing. When with the defense die, get 3 defensive dies, pretty much allowing them to go and take any point on the map that they want, as long as they don't have to assault an infantry to take it. But even still, they'll do some damage. Flame mortars, of course, very strong. They are expensive with the 2 XP upgrade, but they have that 2 munition speed die, and they only have 3 manpower, so you can get some really good CP efficiency from your mortars and from your light vehicles. Once again, the light vehicles being able to have 2 speed die. This is where Wehrmacht mostly gets their command point efficiency, because the MG team does not have a speed die. It's going to be slow to set up. The Grenadier does not have a speed die. The Panzer Grenadier does not have a speed die. So this is why the Kübelwagen is necessary for taxing your units around, so that way you can get to areas of the map that your opponent is pressuring.
All right, how do you play against the Wehrmacht?
So, as I was saying, the Wehrmacht have a problem with they aren't going to surprise their opponent like how a lot of other factions can spawn forward. A lot of other factions have a lot of mobility with their infantry being able to take points. Wehrmacht what you see is what you get when you're fighting them. If you see the opponent has an MG out, that MG is probably going to be there for a while. It's not going to move. It's not going to get many places. So you only want to try and counter what your opponent is doing. If they're buying multiple Panzer Grenadiers, you buy some anti-infantry. If they're buying multiple Tier 2 light vehicles, you can get out an AT gun, and that'll solve all of those problems. If Wehrmacht is playing very standard and decent, trying to get one of every unit, trying to balance it out, they can be pretty strong, but then it's mostly going to come down to positioning and proper play, in which both sides, you can just have a nice, good standard game. It's not going to be completely overwhelming, but they aren't going to be completely underwhelming
All
when you're
right.
playing against them.
Sounds like a great way to play